I have this real problem where after 7 days of not uploading, I wake up with anxiety and it hurts. It physically hurts me not to upload. I was napping when I hit 100k because I was so anxious about hitting it. And I was like, why am I not enjoying this? I feel like I have a heart condition. And I went to hospital about it. It was anxiety.
Do you think you're going to wake up one day, maybe soon, maybe a year from now, and just decide you don't want to make the commentary content that you're doing now?
So you mentioned that making this music felt like you were really tapping into your artistic and creative side. On like a more conceptual level, is YouTube art?
How do you describe the way you look at your audience and subscribers and the fans of all of your work?
The distinction I'd like to make is I don't pretend it's love, nor do I allow it to be friendship, simply because there is always going to be somewhat of a one-sidedness.
Hey, welcome to the Create Unknown, the home of Make Something Mean Something. I am Kevin Lieber. With me, as always, is Matthew Tabor, and joining us right now is an absolute flood of new, fresh blood hanging out with us live on Discord because it is TCU night, Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern. There are a lot of people listening right now.
Yeah,
feels
there
good.
Are a lot, and we just had we had a few dozen join in the last few minutes, thanks to a retweet from our guest. So it's nice to get to get new people in. Hopefully some of you guys stick around after the episode. For the veterans of the Create Unknown, do not forget that you will get an ad-free experience if you join Patreon for as little as $2 becoming a tot. And the annual memberships are great because they cut 20% off the price, which is cool. $20 gets you a year of being a tot and participation in these interviews. So that's cool. And I also want to mention how well the Electro Voice RE20 mics worked out. I mentioned those last week, and we got some really good feedback on how smooth they sounded. We had very good mics. It's not like we needed some tremendous upgrade, but Electro Voice sent us a couple, and it's actually, it feels good to be able to talk about a thing like legitimately and say, oh, this is really great, and I'm not reading talking points. That's frustrating and weird. So again, thank you, Electro Voice, for making Kevin sound adequate and me sound very sexy.
Yeah. It's amazing how that worked out. You know, I went from sounding hideous and disgusting to adequate, and
right.
you went from elegant to sexy. It's a weird It's a weird upgrade, but you know.
You went, and that's what the RE20 can do, right? Is it can take somebody like Kevin, who's a 2, his voice is a 2, and it can turn it into a serviceable goblin voice. It becomes a serviceable 5 or 6, and then it can take somebody like me, who's a 9.5, and then just get you that last bit all the way up to perfect 10. That's what the RE20 does.
It's true. And also real quick before you talk about our guest, if anyone is listening live with us and they want to join the chat, just become a patron. Go to patreon.com/thecreateunknown. $2, become a $2 tot, and then you can join the episode chat and ask our guests questions at the end. All right, without further ado, let's hear about our guest.
Our guest is somebody who we've wanted on for a long time. And was a little bit of an inspiration in our early days. So every generation has a witty, charming, funny British man with striking good looks and the sort of subtle trustworthiness that would make him a fine candidate to date your younger sister. Our generation's was Hugh Grant. And this generation's may very well be James Marriott. And if he can avoid prostitutes, his reign will last a bit longer than Hugh Grant's did.
I must say, this is the first time I've ever been compared to Hugh Grant, and I'm not sure in this context I appreciate it, but you know what? I'll take it. I'll take Hugh Grant. Take those.
Well, James, you are famously one of the EBoys, along with I'm Alex, Mamulus, and Will N.E. And we can't forget the camp cast that you used to do with Alex. That's one that was one of our personal favorites back in the day.
I remember that you guys liked that. That was like the beginning of everything, really, doing the campcast. I think things really took off from that. People found like a really good connection to that podcast, and it really ignited love for me with podcasts. So I loved that. Loved it.
They did. And to give anybody who's not familiar with James a rundown on his content, James has his own YouTube channel, in addition to the EBoys Madness, that focuses on commentary. And depending on the week, he might be talking about a poem Gabby Hanna wrote about him, everything wrong with Trisha Paytas, which he somehow managed to fit into 17 minutes, or how James Charles can't actually sing. James Marriott, though, can actually sing, and he's emerging
debatable.
As well.
It's a point of debate.
A lot of people are getting a little nutty over your music, and when you released "Slow Down" months ago, it impressed audiences and also the creators that we both know. One of our mutual friends said privately after that dropped that you have a legitimate shot at going from YouTube royalty to pop sensation a la Filthy Frank and Joji. And your latest No Left Brain release, which includes the song Him, seems to support that theory. But we're really defined by what we do behind closed doors. And though I value privacy in the YouTube community, I'm quite happy to leak the fact that James is the kindest, most considerate, most respectful creator I've talked to, even when no one can see it. He's legitimately supportive of his fans, and he's the first to call for understanding and patience when another creator has a problem. He's one of the few YouTubers who really is who you think he is. So between all of this stuff, the videos, the podcast, the music, we've got a lot to unpack here, but we need to start with controversial international politics. James.
Oh, good. Let's go. That's my, look, this is my point of interest. I'm really good at this stuff.
This is serious. Do you eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? And if so, how do they compare with beans on toast?
Oh my God. I have never had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I hate beans on toast. And I'm sorry, that is going to insult. I feel like I've just insulted everyone because I feel like there is at least you're going to at least enjoy one of those things. But no, I've never had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I think in the UK, barely touched. I feel like that's untouched soil for a lot of people here. And beans on toast, I have a real issue with how cold it gets very quickly. And at that point, kind of the tomato sauce and cold beans, that just ain't it. I'm not a fan of that. So I don't know. I can't really answer that question, unfortunately.
This is terrible because, the UK has left the EU, so you've lost that. And now after this, they're going to revoke the UK citizenship. So you will be a man without a country within days.
Yeah. And then where will I go? I haven't tried peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I can't go there. Yeah, no, I'm stuck.
It's truly never occurred to you to just have these two things. Well, let me ask this. Do you have peanut butter and do you have jelly or jam in your kitchen?
I feel like I have peanut butter, and I'm a fan of peanut butter, although not very often. I'll have a little bit every now and then. I dabble. Yeah. But I don't. I've barely had jam in my life, so I don't really. I wouldn't really go near it. That's not like my first choice if I was to go for a sandwich. You know what I mean?
So it would just never occur to you to slap these, to see both of these things on the shelf and just say, you know what, they should kiss in my mouth.
I feel like these kind of things are better left untouched. This is kind of like a universe breaking combination that I'm a bit too scared to try out.
I like the point about the beans getting cold because we spoke with Ted Nivison last week on the podcast about this peanut butter and jelly and beans on toast controversy, because if anyone isn't aware and isn't on Twitter all day like some of us are, there was a bit of a meme about this showdown between PB&J and beans on toast. And I think Ted's main contention was the sloppiness factor. He did not mention how quickly the beans get cold, and I hadn't thought of that either. So that brings an element to this argument that I think is really important. Beans do get cold really quickly.
Especially when they get separated from the pack. So at that point, you're spending a lot of the time eating the beans on toast being very wary of the fact that it needs to remain a concise unit. Whereas if you go for something like the burrito, for example, and it gets a bit messy, that's kind of fine because there's so much there to unpack. There's so many different flavors. It's all good. You got the kidney beans, which are again a different kind of bean, but I much prefer them. You've got maybe some sour cream in there, maybe some guacamole, a meat, some tofu, maybe if you're feeling a little bit extra, and you've just got a bigger package. Whereas with beans on toast, you lose some of the beans; they get cold. You may accidentally pick up a cold bean with your fork without realizing it, and that ruins the entire experience. So yeah, I'm not a fan.
I do want to take the opportunity here to inject a little bit of Vsauce into the bean debate, right? Like this, the issue here is surface area, right? That's the problem with beans on toast, as opposed to something like soup, where you have a couple inches of this warm body and it just doesn't cool that quickly. But if you have this thin layer of beans, what do you have? 2 beans stacked on top of each other with a little bit of sauce at its highest, right?
At its height, I mean, even that would be bold. I feel like there is definitely space for gaps, you know?
So yeah, you got a single layer of beans, a little bit of sauce. Newton's law of cooling is reducing the temperature of those beans very, very quickly. You have nothing underneath the beans to keep that heat. So you have, it's almost like a movie where there's a bomb that has to be diffused in a certain amount of time. And that's the threatening part about beans on toast, is that you've got about 95 seconds to eat them all before it becomes horribly suboptimal. Yeah. Yeah.
All in one go. And then you're not enjoying the experience. You know, you're on the clock at that point. You just, you go for some cold pizza or something. I don't know. Just to commit to it.
Well, we got the answer we were looking for, and that wraps up this episode of The Create Unknown.
Well,
yeah, thank you so much for having me.
No, James, I personally, so I'm a big peanut butter guy. I love peanut butter and jelly. I think in high school, I probably had that every day for lunch for like 3 years. So
you're obsessively into peanut butter and jelly, though.
Yeah, I'm kind of worried.
More so than anybody I know. I mean, like, my parents will make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich every once in a while because it's easy and it's nice. But
yeah, I mean, it's not like a lifestyle choice for you. I don't have like paintings of peanut butter and jelly on my walls. It's just something that's really cheap. It takes 2 seconds to make. It doesn't cause a big mess. You use one butter knife that you have to clean up afterwards. And efficient, yeah. It's a decent amount of calories, so it'll fill you up. It's a pretty solid food.
How do we know that you don't have a peanut butter and jelly tattoo somewhere we can't see?
Oh, wow. If I was to get one, it would have to be that silly. Sorry, not to trivialize peanut butter and jelly sandwiches here, but it would have to be something like that.
So you have no tattoos?
No, I don't. I would. A part of me does want tattoos. When I was a kid, I was always thinking, oh no, it needs to mean something. It needs to be really serious, and I need to want it for the rest of my life. But I actually think future me would quite admire the way I am right now of just kind of hitting fuck it and just why not? I'm gonna get a peanut butter and jelly tattoo, and that being representative of the age I am now.
Well, my request for you, James, has like ramped up times 1,000 quickly. At first, I was just going to like heavily request that you try a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and then report back. But now I'm kind of like skipping over that and going straight to this tattoo idea.
Yeah, it would be quite something if before even trying the sandwich, I was so committed to how much I would enjoy it that I had a tattoo of it pre-prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, it'll be nice. It'll be nice for us to get EBoys tattoos at VidCon, and you can get a Create Unknown tattoo. We'll call it even.
Yeah, let's do that. I'll happily do that. Let's have some EBoys tattoos. I'd love you trying to explain that.
So, look, at this point, when you are at a place like a VidCon or an Insomnia or something like that, you come across somebody who may not be familiar with you. What do you say you do? Because there are so many things. If you have to write the one-line log line of James Marriott right now, what is it?
To be honest, at the moment, it's I say very different things to what I do, because I don't like having the moment where, I mean, there was a part of me when it all started blowing up that I did care a little bit that I'd go like, oh, let's follow each other on Instagram. And then they go, oh, why do you have this many followers? But that went away very quickly when I realized it didn't make me happy at all. If anything, it made me feel the opposite way. But it was, I feel like these days I just kind of say, oh, I work in social media. And that's just kind of as far as I take it. And then if it's kind of people that would speak to my parents or my grandparents, I'd say, oh, so I work with agencies and I organize sponsored posts and stuff like this. Just kind of taking it from the agency perspective, because that sounds more kind of easy to explain than it is to say, hey, so I kind of just do whatever I want and make videos and music and stuff. You know, that just sounds kind of like ridiculous.
Which is nice. It's nice to be able to say something and have somebody just be like, oh, I can understand that somebody would pay you money to do this each week. Whereas if it's like, you know what, about every week or so, I post a video about how, like Trisha Paytas.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And that's my living.
It's hard to explain, really. I mean, but when it comes to people my age, I think it's instead of like my parents' age, it's always a lot easier explaining if they really want to ask questions. But usually a lot of people just phrase the kind of, oh, what do you do question as a way of making you ask them what they do. So I find it quite easy to just put it back on them, and then they speak about themselves for quite a while. So I like that.
I love I work in social media, because I think Matt and I have asked this question of a lot of our podcast guests, because it is very interesting. I've been doing the YouTube thing for so long that I can remember, I swear to you, in like 2012 thinking, you know what? In 5 years, I'm not going to have this confusing conversation every time
it will go on
comes
forever.
up. Everyone will understand by 2017 what a YouTuber is. And well, that was 4 years ago at this point. That still hasn't happened.
You know what it is? If you're James Charles, or if you're, Logan Paul or something, people go, yeah, you're a YouTuber. But if you say you're a YouTuber and that person doesn't happen to know who you are immediately, then it's suddenly a taboo. Because it's like, oh, really? You're a YouTuber? What do you even do at that point? So it's like, I just think it's a bombshell that's just completely worth avoiding at all costs. I would much rather just say social media and then they say, oh, wait, are you ? Rather than go into like, oh, I make videos. And then the whole conversation starts. I would much rather just say social media and let it be.
That's general enough that it includes all the videos, all the podcasts, all the...
Yeah, exactly.
You do the occasional stream as well?
Yeah, I've enjoyed a bit of Twitch recently. I streamed every day for a month, just as a kind of... it sounds weird, but as a bit of a break. I like trying new things every now and then. And that was kind of comfortable enough to be new, but also, comfortable. So I didn't feel like I was too much out of my comfort zone, and I could just talk to my audience a bit and just see what it was like. I have a lot of friends who stream a lot, like Wilbur, and I like making content with him as well. So yeah.
What'd you do on the streams?
Oh, to be honest, it was quite a lot of nothing. I would do like just chatting streams, or I'd play a game or something. I really want to start playing chess on stream. I really like chess. But yeah, or like just anything really, just very relaxed content. It's just me doing something. That's all it ever really was. Among Us as well. I really enjoyed Among Us for its 5 minutes of fame. Yeah.
Is it over? Is Among Us over?
It looks like it is. Oh. I mean, it kind of, the thing is they still only, I believe they have 4 people working on the game, and over 500 million people played it in 1 month, and there's 4 people working on the game.
Oh.
So they don't want to hire anyone else. They don't want to split the pie, but there is not much pie left at this point because they didn't hire anyone. So the game hasn't expanded.
They must have gotten a lot of pie.
Yeah, didn't they shift?
Yeah, a lot.
They shifted gears, didn't they? They were working on a sequel and kind of had to stop that so they could deal with all these scalability issues and work out some bugs and things like that. So I think they tabled the sequel. But at a certain point, you just have to
bring in people.
You have to, you gotta grow and let it happen.
There was this person that did an amazing mod for it. I mean, loads of people have done these incredible mods for it, but there's this one guy called Automated, and he did the proximity mod, which is the one where you can talk in game. to people. And also now it's got a thing where you can hear ghosts if you're the imposter, which is hilarious. You kill someone and then the ghost can talk to you and go like, oh, well, you fucking killed me, and that's incredible. But this person did that for free. And then I just hire him. Why not just hire that guy? I mean, he did all this for free and it was incredible. And he was turning around these mods. They do the updates and you'd be able to have an updated version of the mod within 6 hours. He was just constantly working on it for nothing. You could donate to his Patreon, but that was it. And I was just thinking, how stupid have you got to be not to hire this guy? He's incredible. But yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of what was the game? This is like such a famous thing, but I'm such a non like PC gamer that I'm going to sound really boomer here. But what was the game? Was it Dota that was based off of World of Warcraft and Blizzard had an opportunity to buy it? Maybe it was like either Dota or Dota 2. And I think it was Blizzard had an opportunity to buy it. Oh, okay. So Many Kudos is in the chat right now and he says Dota 2 was a Warcraft 3 mod. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that Blizzard had an opportunity to buy it and they didn't. And it has gone on to become like an insanely popular and incredibly profitable game in and of itself. And they lost out on, I don't know, a lot of millions of dollars because of that.
Yeah, you're right about that, about Dota coming from Warcraft 3. The chat did a good job chasing that down. But yeah, it was kind of a mod for Warcraft 3 and turned into something with a life of its own. And what they had the championships in, is it San Diego or Los Angeles, where it's like a stadium event now?
I love how big esports are. I think it's incredible. I'm really happy about it. I think
is that going to be your fourth career?
Who knows? I'm really not good at any game. I'm not good enough at any games to go professional. I wish I was. I used to be very good at FIFA and I'm quite good at Valorant actually. I've just picked that up and that's quite fun. But no, I don't think I'm anywhere near the professional level. And also I think the ideal age to be an esports gamer is between 16 and 21. Have you ever watched like the League of Legends tournaments and it's just like you get too old, your reaction times aren't good enough and you fall off after about like 22 years old, I think. That's when you start getting worse. And I'm past that now, so it's only downhill for my esports career. I've not got any time
over
left.
For you.
Yeah, before it even began.
Over before it began, that's right.
Yeah. So sad. So sad.
Well, you've always got chess, don't you? Now, you mentioned that, and I wanted to, is that something new that you're getting into, or is it something you played for a while?
So I have a very addictive personality and sometimes things stick. Sometimes I try something once and then it doesn't stick and then I come back to it a few months later and then it does stick. And I've played over the last week, I believe, 150 games of chess.
Hey, yo.
Yeah, so I blitz chess, bear in mind. So not like these long games going on, but they're like 5-minute games. And I love it. I find it really satisfying. Even when I lose, it's kind of, I play a lot of games and I rage a lot when I lose, but with this one, it's just it's fine. When I'm beaten at chess, I'm beaten by a better chess player, and that's always a good feeling. Or I've made a mistake, and I'm the one who's messed up the chess.
I wondered about this because I was actually thinking about some games like chess that are real skill games. You know, there's no real luck of the draw there, and what that would be like with streaming, because it seems like if you weren't amazing, Hearthstone is another one where like that. There's a lot of randomness built into that game, you know, based on the draw of cards. But unless you're really good, aren't there a lot of people in the stream who are criticizing you?
Yeah, a lot of backseat chess players, as we call them. No, I've never streamed chess for this very reason. Simply because I'm not that good at chess. I still believe, if anything, I'm just average at this point. So I miss a lot of moves. I rush a lot of moves. I always move and then realize something straight after moving. It's awful. So I would want to be at least 1,000 rated before I go and live stream it, which is silly because a lot of the people who live stream it at the moment start at the 400s, which is where most people start, right? And I'm about a 750 to an 800 now on Blitz. But yeah, I'm nowhere near enough. I'm nowhere near good enough to start streaming it confidently. Anyway,
what is this number rating? Can you explain that? I don't know anything about this. So
yeah, it's like an actual tournament rating. So it's an actual tournament rating. I think Grand Champs are rated 2,600, and I don't think professionally you can get rated over 3,000, or at least no one has yet. But online, I think some of the best players in the world are rated over 3,000. I think like Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura are rated over 3,000. And then I think it's between 400 and 1,000 are kind of like casual players. Over 1,000 is you have some idea of chess theory. 1,600 is you enter tournaments. 2,600 is Grandmaster. I might be wrong, but I feel like that's kind of where my head's at about it. So yeah, it started off as tournament ratings. So if you went to actual in real life tournaments, you could get a rating, and that's still technically what happens. But online, they kind of try and recreate it just by judging how you're playing against people of similar levels or higher levels.
That's awesome. I didn't know about that at all. So one of the best chess players in the world's name is Magnus. I mean,
yeah,
that's ridiculous.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Magnus Carlsen. Yeah, no, he's incredible. He's been losing a lot recently, which is really sad because it's like watching any kind of genius or prodigy start doing badly for a small amount of time. It's always really sad. But no, he's fantastic. He's like it. My recommended on YouTube is full of chess at the moment. I absorb chess content like it is absolutely nothing. So
is it because of the Queen's Gambit, the Netflix show?
Funnily enough, no.
No, okay.
I watched that because of because of how much I was enjoying chess, because I was watching a lot of content, and then I heard the Queen's Gambit being spoken about on streams. And then my girlfriend asked if I wanted to watch it with her, and I really liked it. Yeah, it was a really good show. And that also explains some of the tournament ratings and stuff in there if you really listen.
Oh, well, then I just outed myself for having not watched that show.
Oh, wait, sorry. I didn't realize you'd watched it. I wasn't trying to call you out. I was like, if you actually watched the show, Kevin, you would have actually known about the tournament ratings.
Amazing. Kevin has been ostracized from all of the Queen's Gambit communities he's been cosplaying in for weeks.
Yeah, exactly. If I ever see you on a chessboard, I'm flipping the damn thing.
Yeah. Rightly so.
Yeah.
Rightly so.
So you've got a dozen different things going on, and it sounds like they go on day after day. How are you figuring out how to do videos with this schedule, because you're still releasing these pretty consistently?
Yeah, it's kind of slowed down these days. I think I spoke to Nerd City about this because he couldn't understand how I uploaded weekly on my own for like 2 or 3 years or something crazy like that. I don't really know how I did it. I have quite an addictive personality, so when I get set into doing things, I really struggle to get out of them. So I have this real problem where after 7 days of not uploading, I wake up with anxiety, and it hurts. It physically hurts me not to upload, which is quite scary. And I'm only just getting over that. So now when I upload, it's just because I want to, or because I need to pay rent, right? Or because one of these things. But before it was a lot of fear and a lot of again, kind of like a painful mixture of imposter syndrome and fear, just of not doing enough to warrant the position I'm in or the audience that I have or had. So yeah, I kind of take it a little bit slower these days, but it is quite hard to balance the stuff I do, because a lot of it doesn't feel like work, but it takes a lot of energy from me, especially my creative energy. And that's why I do things like chess, because that kind of puts my mind back into the right gears for work. So yeah.
It's fascinating to me.
Oh, go on, Kevin.
Sorry, it's fascinating to me that Ted Nivison, who we spoke to last week, has this same problem and reacts to it in the opposite way. Because he was talking about the same things that a lot of people talk about when it comes to imposter syndrome and just general anxiety, but he has been not posting videos. Yeah. Whereas you react to it as needing to post a video. Like you get anxiety from not posting. Yeah. And his anxiety has led him. And he just put out a video this week.
Yeah, I watched it. I love Ted.
This. Yeah. It was a good video.
What Ted needs to understand is, and I would never say this about myself. Ted is incredibly entertaining naturally. He's one of I can watch absolutely anything he does. The same goes for people like Schlatt, who's also been on the podcast, I believe. He is just naturally incredible. And I've always thought that about them. As soon as I watch the first video of theirs, and it's just a feeling I get about people like this. So the same goes for Tommy Innit, who's doing just incredibly at the moment. I feel like he could do whatever he wanted, and he does. And he does, as he said in the video, he does like where he goes and does like milkman videos, or he'll speak about some trip he had on edibles, and it does well for him. But that's because they're good videos, because he's in them. So if he had my way of dealing with imposter syndrome, he probably wouldn't have been any happier, because I believe I'm no happier because of the amount I upload. But he definitely would have been able to create consistent content to a very high level, because he is a high level person. Like, he just makes quality. So yeah, I think again, I'm out of it now, and I'm glad that I am. Like, I still struggle. It's been 7 days. I know how many days it's been. I think it's been 8, or even 9 maybe. But I always I still get a bit jittery, but I'm getting better. And I don't feel the need to constantly have a drip feed of commentary going into my viewers' veins. So, yeah.
Is there anybody, this is kind of for Kevin because I can't remember, James, your episode like 79, something like that. Not everyone has been us talking with somebody. I'd say 2/3 of them have been, maybe a little less. But we've talked to a lot of people, and I can't recall any of them who said they didn't have some level of imposter syndrome. I mean, not everybody mentions it, but it's come up a lot lately. I mean, Sumet from Sumeto Media talked about that.
Yeah.
Mini Kudos talked about that, because we talked to him when we did that at a weird time, because he was like, between us talking and the episode coming out, his channel went from 10,000 subs to 60 or something.
Yeah, that's always one of the hardest moments.
Oh, did you feel funny as kind of the initial real growth happened?
So it's interesting, right? Because and then I've got quite a long-winded answer for this one. When I first had my shot, it was when I was on 4K subs, and there was a YouTuber called Just Destiny, who now goes by Destiny. He was the one in a lot of drama over the last couple of years. But he's a lovely guy. I made a video on Triggered Tro ages ago, and I think they were kind of clashing at the time. So his way of kind of putting one on Triggered Tro was collabing with me. And at the end of the video, it was the best kind of collab, not one where you're doing a video together, but you have a section of the video which is your own, because then this is the content I make on my channel. If you enjoy this, subscribe. And I went from 4,000 subscribers to 20,000 overnight. And I remember when the video went up, and the first 10 minutes, not much happened, because it's a 10-minute video. No one's going to subscribe until the end of the video. And then I just watched I think it was within a minute, it just went up by hundreds. And I was just watching this number that I'd sat on for, I think, 7 years at that point. It had just slowly gone up to 4,000 over 7 years. And it just started rushing. And I cried. I was just completely overwhelmed. And I've had this feeling of euphoria a few times, which is what I search for in life, I think, more than anything. I had it when I released him, but I'm sure we'll get onto that at some point. And it was amazing, right? That is the only time I felt that way about my presence on YouTube. Talking numbers, talking audience, in terms of when I've met audience members, it's been different, but in terms of numbers and growth, as we like to call it, that is the only time I have felt that way. You would think you'd feel the way when you hit a big number like 100,000 or 1 million. But the thing is, the longer it goes on and the bigger that number gets, and the more you realize how much you romanticized the person that you are now, what, you know, in terms of the YouTubers you used to watch, and you went, I want to do this, I want to be like them. And then you are them to someone else, you kind of realize that it isn't what you thought it was. You know, you are just a normal person. These numbers don't change you. You know, it kind of, if anything, the pressure just mounts. You're like, now I have to keep this up. If I let this die, it will be embarrassing. In my head, anyway. That's what I always like. That's what always bugs me. And it reached the point where I think it took me just over half a year to go from 20K to 100K, and that is a good growth. That's good growth. But it gets to the point where that build up to the 100K or to the 1 million is such a such a slug. You have to keep going at it over and over and over again, to the point where when you get to 100K, you've already been on 90K for the past few weeks, or maybe even just the past few days. It's not really a surprise. You're just kind of, I did it. I napped. I was napping when I hit 100K because I was so anxious about hitting it. And I woke up and I had this feeling in my heart. It was the first time I really had a panic attack. And this is crazy. I genuinely thought I'd had a heart condition. I was like, why am I not enjoying this? I feel like I have a heart condition. 2 days later, the pain got even worse. And I thought, okay, no, I think I might actually be having a heart attack. And I went to hospital about it, and it was just anxiety. I say just anxiety, but it was anxiety. And that was nuts. This thing that I'd wanted my entire life, or at least my entire teenage and adult life, had suddenly kind of crippled me in a sense of, I genuinely believed that I was having a heart attack. Wow. And I you can call that imposter syndrome, or you can, it's very, very overwhelming. And yeah, it's hard. It's even hard to put into words. I kind of like, I feel for people who blow up, simply because I just think everyone needs to be honest about it. If they have a friend that they can just talk to about how they're feeling, because a lot of you, when you blow up, you're like, I've just got to post about it. I've got to be recognized for what I'm doing, but that doesn't help. You just have to be honest with someone and actually have an open conversation about what's happening with you. You know, enjoy the moment, but don't think of it too highly. Yeah.
There's a movie, I guess too long ago now, with Mark Wahlberg and Jennifer Aniston. I think it was called Rockstar, where he's, God, this must be like 20 years old now, but he's the singer of a cover band and kind of a metal band. And yeah, 2001 film, so 20 years is just right. And he idolizes, this band and the people in it. Well, long story short, he becomes the singer of it. The guy just wants out, and he has an identical voice, or a very good voice, and replaces him, and then realizes like all of this stuff that I thought I wanted, and all of these people who I wanted to be. Well, now I am them, and it's quite a bit different than I thought. It's not necessarily what what I thought I was signing up for, and I don't like it all that much.
I think I love what I do. I love being in the position where I can just create, and there's an audience for it. I love that. I think I kind of lost my train of thought there, but I think sorry, keep going for a second. I'll try and think of what I was trying to say. I had a really big point.
Then I will boomer up Matt's reference and reference an 80-year-old film. Okay.
Let's go. Wait, an 80-year-old film? So the 1930s?
41.
40s?
Citizen Kane.
41.
Citizen Kane. Okay. If anyone has seen Citizen Kane, the whole spoiler alert, maybe skip ahead 30 seconds so you don't want this 80-year-old film spoiled for you. Yeah,
you're definitely going to spoil to all of the 50 people who have just joined to listen to James. That community, to me, it just screams, yeah, we're going to go watch Citizen Kane.
They all just closed Discord.
They're definitely already seen it.
It's already bounced.
Hello, the point of Citizen Kane is that this guy has everything in the world. Everything is at his fingertips. He has this, giant mansion. He owns everything, blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, his dying words are Rosebud, which is the sled that he had as a child. So, in the end, all of the stuff that he accumulated over his incredibly, ridiculously successful life meant nothing. And, on his deathbed, all he could think about was his childhood and this thing that, that was the last time to him, I guess, that he had like actual joy in his life. And I mean, obviously that's a meta and extreme version of what you're talking about, but what you were talking about did remind me of that in a way.
I think, you know what it is? I've remembered what I was going to say. I think it's a big part of the human condition is to be aspiring to be something or someone, like in the case of the Mark Wahlberg film, especially. And when people watch YouTubers and they go, oh, I'm going to upload a video, you don't see yourself as someone who hits 1 million subscribers. I think myself and a lot of people I know included, I've always said, oh, it would be great to have an audience of like 10,000 subscribers and just see how that is, And that would be amazing. And then as soon as, because YouTube doesn't really work like that. You don't really get 10K subscribers that are consistent for the rest of your YouTube career. Everyone has a moment, at least the majority have a moment, if they do make it as a YouTuber, where they have a spike. And they, all of a sudden, sometimes overnight, immediately become their goal or what they thought was unattainable, the thing they dreamed of. And when you reach that, it is only human to want something different as soon as you get there. Because I don't know many people who can rest on something and go, I did it, unless they are perhaps on their deathbed or are just kind of completely demotivated. And I think that is an issue that I had, because I thought that would be the impossible thing that I would always wish for, you know, to be an actor or a YouTuber or a musician. And that was the thing that I would always be reaching for and always be striving for and have little joys in that build up. But when it happened within the space of half a year, it was difficult because it's hard to know what to do after it. You kind of reach a bit of a slump mentally, because it's just kind of, well, what now? And I know a lot of people who suffer with that.
Yeah. Yeah, because life is not a movie. The credits don't roll. You have to wake up the next day.
Yeah, no, I was like, I needed my act 2 before this happened. I needed something to go wrong. You know?
Yeah. And this is something we've talked about in the past, in kind of a general sense, is that the people who love the process of things tend to be in pretty good shape with all of this, because no matter what's happening with them, what they've achieved or they're still waiting to achieve, they're so into the process of getting it done that the actual outcome is really a secondary thing. And if they do hit, some level of success, they accomplish a goal, whatever, like this comes up a lot with serial entrepreneurs. They build a business to the point where it can be acquired, for example. And then they'll sell that and then just start another business, and they'll go through the whole process again because they love the process. That's something we've kind of gotten in a soft way from a lot of people we've talked to, where they pretty much continually engage in this process in one thing or another. iDubbbz did it with funny stuff and then shifted away and went through the same process of these kind of compassionate / funny documentaries.
I think, did iDubbbz talk about that in depth with you guys? Because he's been on as well, right?
Yeah.
So was his thing not more evolving with the state of YouTube? Because I always assumed it was like he understood that there was no place for what he was doing beforehand, and that he had to shift it up. I didn't realize that it was a personal thing on top of that.
Kevin, tell me if you agree with what I'm about to say. I think it was kind of necessary given the state of things changing, but I think he's just gotten a little bit older and his perspective has changed and his interests have changed. And I think even if YouTube was exactly the same, he probably would be moving into things with more meaning like this. Kevin, did you get that sense?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, so we've actually talked to iDubbbz twice on this podcast. And yeah, it seemed like he just felt like things like Content Cop ran its course more so,
I agree.
I think, than, he was afraid. I mean, he doesn't even care that YouTube deleted like the Leafy one. I don't know. He's like, whatever. I don't care. Okay. Yeah, I made fun of his chin. He can't change that. I guess he could get a chin implant, but it's an immutable characteristic that I made fun of. That's against terms of service now for bullying. They deleted the video. Whatever. I can just make other stuff. So yeah, I
agree with him.
I think that Matt, that's a sense that I got as well, is that he's not like, I'm fighting Susan Wojcicki and her rules. It's more like, yeah, I did that. I kind of set out to accomplish what I wanted to. And I felt that way over the years on Vsauce too, as well, where it's like, I have done this type of content kind of to its limit, and I'm ready to try something else. And I know that audiences get upset with that, but it's like,
it's human.
I don't know. Yeah. It's like, I'm over it.
No, I completely get you.
I'm ready to try something else. Sorry, guys. Like, Seinfeld is canceled. It's like, my wife and I have been watching Seinfeld from the beginning on Hulu. It's been years since I watched that show. And it just reminded me of the fact that Jerry Seinfeld, and I think Larry David as well, but I think it was mostly Seinfeld himself, just didn't want to do the show anymore. Like,
didn't they leave it on a high? It was like the highest rated finale.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think it ran 9 seasons, and he was like, 10 seems like too long. And NBC was going to pay him like $5 million an episode or something completely crazy in, like 1998 or whatever. And he was like, no, it's over. This show's done. And it was. That was
I've got so much
James,
respect for that.
Do you think you're going to wake up one day, maybe soon, maybe a year from now, something like that, and just decide you don't want to make the commentary content that you're doing now? Do you think there's going to be an end of life for that?
We spoke about like the kind of videos I made earlier, right? I've made this very clear to my audience, the ones that are very kind of who watch my Twitch streams or who kind of interact with me on Instagram or Twitter. They all know that the days of me making videos on trending topics are over. I can't see myself doing that again unless I feel real passion for a topic. And when I say I haven't felt much passion for YouTube drama in quite a while, it has been quite a while. The only thing that I felt somewhat interested in is just, I think Trisha Paytas is so interesting. She has been through the ringer so many times, and yet now she's going for a stint where people like her. And I find it fascinating that she has this way of just completely contorting herself every single year and constantly evolving so impressively. And I just find her incredibly interesting.
She honestly, her career is like out of WWE.
It's fascinating.
By the year, like the plots change, and she's either this major heel or has this redemption arc, and all of a sudden people like her, and it just cycles back and forth, and then all of a sudden she's nude, and that's a thing. Yeah. She's on the podcast with Ethan Klein, and that's the thing.
By the way,
that
podcast is incredible. I know a lot of people have an issue with H3, and I completely understand it, but that podcast, Frenemies, I was considering buying the merch for it because I cannot tell you how much I love that podcast. I'll have it on while I'm playing my chess. And and Trisha says some of the dumbest stuff that you could even imagine. Like it genuinely, there are some highlights out there that are incredible, and I love it. I love how stupid it is. I think it's such an interesting concept to have people that used to hate each other so massively, and just it's very kind of different levels of intellect, but kind of Trisha has this kind of pop culture intelligence as well that really clashes with Ethan's kind of lack thereof. And it's just incredible. I love it.
Did she ever figure out what Hitler did that was so bad?
God knows. I won't answer that.
When you talk about the clips, the clips that are just off the wall, shocking.
She's been a troll. Yeah. She's been a troll for years. This is what she does. And every time people get angry at it and you see it happening, you go, this is what she wants. This is what she wants you to do. And it works every time. And I mean, I've very much worsened this culture by making videos on her so much. But again, when I find it that interesting, I can't resist. I mean, at least in the past, I couldn't. Going forward though, on that note, I want to do more kind of like, my editor, I mean, he's a big YouTuber now as well, Cynic Snacks. I love doing content with him where we review kind of TV shows, films, books, etc. The Bad Book Club series I love doing that. And any way I can kind of do content where I can involve music, I will keep doing, but I will not just upload for uploading's sake. I won't go, what is Charlie D'Amelio doing this week? Because I don't care. And I think, the majority of my audience would much rather me rip apart a book than they would rip apart what's happened in a week anyway. But yeah, I think very much kind of the evolution is happening. I feel like there's a change around the corner. I guess to do with the way music has gone as well. But I think I will be choosing my next steps very carefully.
I think that's something the audiences are getting used to as well, knowing that the people they like are going to evolve and do new things and, kind of pivot their content, if not doing something, radically different, like going from YouTube to music. But that wasn't really a thing 5 years ago because nobody had time to have done it. Like you need sufficient time in the timeline for people to have like a second act, and now that's happened. There are a lot more platforms that you can do it on. 6 years ago, it really just wasn't as much of a thing to be like, oh, I'm doing one kind of art here and I'm doing a totally different medium there. A couple people pulled it off, but now, like, you can do live streaming. You can do music on Spotify and everywhere else. You can do anything aesthetic on Instagram. You can do short form on TikTok. The opportunities are all over the place, and people are starting to take some of those opportunities. I think that's just something that not only are we going to see loads and loads more of, but it's okay with people now. They don't feel betrayed. And that was kind of an iDubbbz issue that I heard from a lot of hardcore fans when he went into this other type of content. They were like, they felt a little bit betrayed that he wasn't doing shitlord stuff that they loved him for. Well, now I think everybody's a lot more okay with these shifts.
I think as well, like, you rarely have people that are just YouTubers now. I think that's the thing of, the YouTubers of times gone by, like Charlie is so cool, like back in the day for me. And, that the kind of the first wave of British YouTubers, they weren't influencers, they were YouTubers. Now, you've got David Dobrik. I guess he's, not UK, obviously, but he's not just a YouTuber. If anything, he's not even a YouTuber anymore. He's a TikToker, or he's an Instagram, I guess you couldn't call him, I don't know if he'd want to be called an Instagram model, but, he sells products on Instagram. He sells merchandise, all of this. He's an influencer. And I think because people, we're kind of all brushed with this label, or brushed with this brush, I guess, of influencer, it's a lot easier to go out and do more things than just YouTube. Even if you started there, it's a lot easier to gain a following elsewhere and do whatever you want. But it can be quite overwhelming at times, I think, having that many options.
Well, let's talk about your music then. Speaking of branching out, because that's it's very new. When did the first track drop? A few months ago, I remember. Going Down, right? Slow Down. Sorry.
Yeah. So, sorry. Can you hear my cat? My cat is having an absolute scream fest at the moment.
We're cat friendly here at
CCU,
so we want to hear your cat.
Oh, this cat is amazing, by the way. Like, if anybody doesn't follow James on Twitter, and I assume you post a lot of cat pictures on Instagram, but
perhaps too many.
This is an outstanding cat. If you like cats, James is your follow for today.
No, Otto is fantastic. Yeah, he's absolutely lovely, and he's a bit of a life changer as well. Having a little guy around that just, he's screaming at him. I'm gonna let him out. Give me 1 second. I think he's just trapped in a room.
It's funny to me how British people can get away with saying lovely and it sounds good. If I said lovely, it would be creepy. Don't you think?
It would be either creepy or very disingenuous. Like you'd be mocking somebody or creeping the hell out of them. Nothing in between.
Yeah. Maybe a little column A, a little column B.
There we go. The screaming should stop now. There we go. Yeah. No, Otto's great. I love having a cat. Very fun. Where were we? Sorry.
Music.
Yeah.
Slow down.
Okay. So, Slow Down came out in June. It went, basically I started, my YouTube channel started as a music channel. I don't know if many people know that. It started as Black, White, Blur, and I uploaded these acoustic original songs to it, just a guitar, no vocals or anything, in black and white, and it was bad camera quality, so Black, White, Blur. And yeah, I kind of went off music and drama and everything, because I remember I used to do a lot of drama as a kid, and there was this one director that kept asking me to do these amateur shows. And she made me come and audition for something again, because there was a part that she thought I'd want to do. And then I auditioned and she didn't give me the part. And I remember thinking, like, it's one thing going to auditions and not getting a part. But when the one director that has constantly invited you to things and then given you the part that you've auditioned for, auditions you and doesn't give you that part, it was just a bit soul destroying. It was like, oh, am I not good at this anymore? Is this something that I used to be good at? And then at that point, I kind of just went off the the more mainstream forms of media. So acting was a bit down the drain, music went a bit down the drain as well. And it felt a lot less attainable than doing YouTube videos that were kind of more comedic. But that being said, at the beginning of last year, when lockdown happened especially, I started tinkering with production software, music production software, and started introducing that into my videos a little bit. And I really enjoyed it. And then people started streaming the songs that I was making in my videos. And I was writing a bass line one day, and I thought, I really like this. I kind of feel like this would be wasted on just a silly little comedy song that I feature in the 6th minute of my YouTube commentary video. And then that song became Slow Down. Funnily enough, it was produced by John Swan and mixed and mastered by John Swan, and that was it. We didn't send it off to anyone else. We were both very new with the software and stuff. And it was kind of like, it went down really well with a lot of my audience, but it was also criticized a lot by people who really like music. And that was both very motivating and very painful, because it was, again, this is like the closest I've come, at least in my time on YouTube, to creating something artistic, something really, that's almost like a bit of my soul, at least creatively. So I made sure that the next one would be good, in my mind, making something very good. And that was him and the EP, I guess. So yeah, I've really loved it, and it's a real passion of mine. It's always has been, and I'm hoping I can take it to the next level at some point.
You mentioned that coming out in June. In May, maybe it was April and May, John did, I think, 3 episodes with me in a row. He filled in when Kevin was in prison. Yeah. And so at that time, he was putting Kevin was not in prison. So
poor guy.
John was, kind of putting the finishing touches on this. Yeah. I know you were working constantly with him to sort out the final details on that, and and he was pretty happy with how it came out, and it seemed to have a very real presence. I mean, you say it was criticized, which I think anything that's a new effort is going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he was very motivated after that came out, and proud of that project. And that was cool to see, because when, sure, the guy who's doing it is going to be happy with the thing he's making, but when the people around them are happy with the product, that makes a difference. It's a different level of kind of appreciation. And I do this with Vsauce 2 videos. Like, Kevin can release a video, and, I'm sure there are a bunch that, he's very happy with. Every once in a while, though, one will come out where, like, I'm proud of my role, really proud of my role in that video. And that's how John felt when Slow Down came out. So
he is
really cool to see.
Incredibly talented. He's one of the few people that I watch every video of. I remember speaking to him ages before he blew up, and he deserved it so much, and I'm really glad that he got it. And I think a lot of people wouldn't make that connection between him and I, because we although we're in the same genre, we represent quite separate parts of it for many reasons.
Sure.
But no, I've always backed him. I think he's incredibly smart, and I think he's incredibly gifted in anything he touches. Really, he's really.
How did the two of you start? How did the two of you start working on music? How did that come together?
I remember, I think it was The Right Opinion mentioned that John Swan knew his way around music software a long time before, and John helped me out with some of the jokey songs I did. So Adios Lele, which is, I love that song. It was so stupid, but he did this incredible violin part for it acoustically, and it was just incredible. We started working on that kind of stuff. And then when it came to doing serious music, I thought, well, why not? We've shown that we can work together. Let's try it. Let's give it a go. And then when it came to doing the EP, I think he was very busy, and we did work a little bit on some stuff together, but I thought, okay, I need to bring in people who do music full time, so I know I can just take as much time from them as physically possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was how that all went down.
I want to pluck something that you said earlier and dig into it a little bit. And that is this concept that I hadn't thought about before, not really in depth, but I mean, tangentially, I've considered it. But this idea of art versus YouTube. So you mentioned that making this music felt like you were really tapping into your artistic and creative side, bearing a bit of your soul, as you've alluded to, kind of for the first time, as opposed to what you do on YouTube. So can you kind of parse and elucidate the difference? And on like a more conceptual level, is YouTube art?
Yeah, I think it can be. I think the issue is, you know, as Matt was saying earlier, right? The issue I have is, well, you said it in a nice way. You said that I'm very similar to my online presence. Well, kind of behind closed doors, I'm very similar to the way I am publicly. But I think that is not accidental. And that's what I'd say about YouTube is I have been the same, or at least close to the same, in every single one of my videos over the last few years. But there have been times where I have not been that person. I've been so low. I've been not wanting to make a video, or I've been just really just depressed in general. And I've not wanted to be doing that person and being that personality. And for that reason, I feel like there's even if the front is representing what I currently am, it feels like there is an element of maybe even superficiality when it comes to my YouTube channel, where it's like, I know I have to keep up this image. And at that point, it comes, even at the most honest of times, it feels like something partially dishonest, because I could never just turn on a camera and bare my soul for everyone to see and go, this is how I really feel about this, or, you know, this is what I've been going through. Whereas when it became music, and when I could write something about a way that I felt or something that I believe, and it just be complete, unfiltered, how it was for me, or how it felt, or what I did, that to me becomes art. When you kind of, it feels like, I feel like, you know, it's almost like sewing a patch of your soul onto something when you feel like you're making art. And there have been times where I felt like I've done that with YouTube, but until I made music, I realized that it was nowhere near what I thought it was. When doing music, it felt like I was really putting my all into something. And I think at that point, it's kind of, you know, by force of pressure, it becomes art, I guess, at least in my mind.
Matt, what do you think about YouTube and art?
You know, it's changing. I consider myself way less of a creative than anybody I've ever talked to in my life. When I was in school, like when I was in elementary school and I would go through the lunch line and the woman would like put together tacos for me, she was more of a creator in that moment than I will ever be at my peak. So
that's so not true.
Like I don't think of it that way at all, but it's really changed for me over the last year. This obsession with holding on to people's time. Okay. That's a high art to me, because there are, I'm trying to think of specific people. Well, John Swan's a good example of this, because of the way people will watch every one of his videos, and they might be half an hour long, but his retention is insane. People stick around. They watch the whole thing. Internet Historian is another one where nobody's watching 2 minutes of an Internet Historian video. They're watching all 48 minutes of it. That's a really high art, to be able to get somebody in and hold them in. And I keep thinking of that concept in all types of creation, whether it's some restaurants, people eat and get out of there. Other restaurants, they have to have policies that you can only stay so long, because if it were up to the customers, they would hang out for 3 hours every time. There's a difference in the art of what's happening there that translates into how people are behaving. And whether it's a song or a YouTube video or anything else, I think if you're tapping that, if you're grabbing somebody and holding on to them and keeping them happy for any length of time, you're engaging in some element of art.
Yeah, I think art is so subjective. I think there are people who would, I guess in my perspective, I don't think my YouTube videos are art. I think the YouTube videos that you're referring to could definitely be perceived as art. And are probably art, especially if the person themselves believes it to be. I don't think you have to believe. Well, you said earlier you didn't think you were artistic, or you thought you were the least creative person. I don't think you have to be artistic to make art. I think I'm not sure if you've heard of the Shags. They're like this anti-music band. They essentially, I think it was some dad went to a fortune teller, and the fortune teller told this dad that his daughters would become famous musicians. So without any musical knowledge, he took them to a studio, gave them some instruments, and said, make an album. The album is one of the worst things you'll ever listen to. It has no rhythm, it has no key, it has no structure, it is just a mess. But a lot of people love it because it is raw, unfiltered trash. It is simply so insane that people connect with it, because it's also representative of a very controlling father-daughter dynamic where these daughters were made to do something against their will, and it turned out they had quite an abusive relationship with their father. And it is so interesting. But again, I don't think you have to be artistic to make art. I think it could just be a product of emotion, in itself. But yeah, when it comes to art, it's interesting to me that there are definitely people out there that don't like my music, but that have been some of the people that may have messaged me, oh, I was really sad and I was watching your videos, or your videos got me through a time when I was in hospital, or something like that. And to them, that is more art than the music I make. And I guess that's just a matter of subjectivity. But yeah.
I was just going to say that there's a guy named Joe Jackson who made his kids pick up some instruments and make some music, and that worked out really well. They were very good at it. So I don't know what these daughters' excuse was, but
maybe
the Jackson
they had
5
lessons.
were pretty awesome.
Maybe they had some lessons.
He didn't have enough kids. What did you say? He had 2 daughters. They could have been the Shagson 5.
Oh yeah, there we go. I really recommend listening to the Shags, though. It's really interesting, and now it's great because they're old now, and they can go and they just kind of do these gigs where they recreate this music, and it's
Shagson 5.
Yeah, God, that's too good.
This is why I don't create, because I insert.
That was a good pun.
Like
that was an artistic pun.
Quick.
I enjoyed it. How dare you call yourself uncreative? That was brilliant. I didn't even come up with it.
Was there?
This is the support you need.
This is the yes. I need this validation. Was there more on the art side, Kevin? Before we move to something else, because I really want to make sure we hit all of that to your satisfaction.
Well, there is and there isn't, because it's hard to talk about this without, I don't know. I almost feel like it's like trying to tell someone a dream that you had, and they immediately are like, yeah, boring, because it's so kind of self-indulgent. But I do relate a lot to what you meant, though, James, about the creative work being kind of like a reflection of you in a way that is more meaningful to you. I don't know if that articulates it as best as I'm trying, but like, for instance, this book that I've been working on is just a lot more interesting and important to me than YouTube videos. It just is. Because there are a lot of ideas in it and characters in it that I'm trying to work through things in my own head, like personally. So, naturally, like a lot of what I think and believe and love and hate comes through in the book in a way that just never would in a Vsauce 2 video about like a math game. It's just not possible.
I guess it's kind of true what you mean about self-indulgence as well, though, because the Vsauce 2 channel is very much built off of topics. Whereas, when it comes to creating art, when it comes to writing a book, or, when it comes to creating music, it does become at times self-indulgent. But you start developing these ideas and concepts about yourself and trying to translate that to a prospective reader or a listener or whatever it is. And I think that is when it definitely, from at least your own perspective, that's when it feels like you're making art, because it's like no one else could be making what I am doing right now, because no one else is me. Whereas I've seen many videos made on Trisha Paytas. I'm not special, maybe I made a certain joke that made someone laugh, but anyone could do it, And I think there is definitely that kind of, I guess like retrospective view on yourself when you're creating your own thing,
Yeah, it's hard to delineate the difference though, man, because if you think about it rationally, a lot of people make music too, but they're not going to do it the way that you're doing it. And a lot of people can make videos about math games, but they're not necessarily going to do it the way that I would. So
yeah,
it's a difficult thing to really dissect, but it's just a different feeling. Yeah. At least for me, and it sounds like it's a different feeling for you. And once you get into that territory, it's like, well, I don't know how to describe to you why something feels different, but it does.
No, for sure. No, I completely get it. It's a difficult thing to explain, isn't it?
That's all. That's all I have. I don't want to bore anybody any further.
No, I think it's really interesting. I think because everyone, I think especially when you find yourself working and then creating something as on top of the work that you do, because I think that's also another thing is YouTube's my work. Vsauce 2 is your work. Whereas when you start working on something outside of it that you're not looking at from necessarily a monetary perspective, it starts becoming more of a passion project or a hobby even. And at that point, it becomes a lot more personable. It becomes a lot more artistic because it's not you just, clocking in and clocking out. It's you choosing to use your time to create this thing rather than the things that you have kind of set in stone that you would do every week, every month, or, every year.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, the goals are so different. Like if 10 people like this book, that's great. If 2 people like it, that's great. If 1,000 people like it, that's great. But I'm going to do it either way.
What happens if you get 10 views on a Vsauce 2 video, Kevin?
Then I get a job at a gas station.
No, there's a different incentive. There are different forces that push you to do the thing in the first place. There are different outcomes on it. It's really just not the same thing. But at the same time, how do you define it capably? And it's interesting to hear the two of you talk about it in kind of the same way, but also quite a bit differently. There's just a lot to consider with all that. I like it.
Yeah. I guess I don't really have much to add on to that one. I think it's just, it's all a matter of perspective, I think. That's why it's always an interesting discussion to talk about art.
Yeah, you kind of can't go wrong with it. But one thing I really want to talk to you about is audience. We've talked to people, I guess in the last couple months, who have been very clear about what their relationships with their audience both are and aren't. I think it was Schlatt who was very clear about how he will never love his audience. He is happy that he entertains them, and that's as far as it goes. I have a feeling that if he was driving and they were like out on the side of the road and needed help changing a tire, he would stop and help. But that's the extent of the commitment there.
I think that's he was going to splash mud in their face.
Yeah.
Just peel out.
He might for the meme. But I don't say any of this negatively at all. I think that's a perfectly appropriate boundary. And I like the fact that he and some other people have been honest.
Yes.
That's good. You seem to really care about your fans and your audience. Know like a lot of them are on your radar. Like something has come up in like a Twitter group chat or something, and you're like, oh yeah, this is a person who's been replying to me for 3 years, and they're into X, Y, and Z or something like that.
Yeah,
and they've got 19 followers. They're not significant on that level, but you still know them and you pay attention to all of these people.
Yeah.
How do you describe the way you look at your audience and subscribers and the fans of all of your work? What's different about that than what, say, Schlatt was saying?
Okay. I think that the distinction I'd like to make is I don't pretend it's love, nor do I allow it to be friendship, simply because there is always going to be somewhat of a one-sidedness. When I follow someone and when I thank someone for support or for enjoying my content, I hope they understand that if I follow them back, that I probably won't reply to many DMs because I'm someone who gets very anxious about DMs anyway. And I just try to avoid it.
Quite a few.
Yeah, I wouldn't brag about it, but like it's, I think I struggle to answer my family's messages, so I kind of just try and focus on the in real life connections or that kind of stuff. But yeah, I kind of uncontrollably just kind of gravitate towards interacting with people that interact with me. I like that interaction. I find it kind of, I like the idea of someone, and this isn't an ego thing, don't get me wrong, but when someone is having a bad day and I see someone tagging me or someone says like, oh, can you wish them happy birthday or something? And I know for a fact it will make their day better if I do that. It's kind of hard for me not to spend that 5 seconds to just tweet, It's like,
that's like a little superpower that you have that most like normal people don't have.
I wouldn't even see it as that. I kind of just, I don't think it's a duty that everyone has to do, because also it can be a lot of pressure, I imagine, to a lot of people. But especially in the cases of the people I've seen, because I read through Twitter, I see my mentions, I don't have notifications on or anything, I'm not, a madman, but I read through when I'm bored. That's probably my go-to read through thing. I don't scroll through TikTok, I don't watch YouTube videos that often unless I'm on my PC. I just scroll through Twitter and have a read. And if I see someone constantly popping up, constantly showing support for videos that I make or streams I do or, music that I create, I feel the need to interact every now and then, maybe chuck a retweet on them or just show some support. And I think that was very much kind of amplified when I met people, because a lot of people become very honest in real life, and it's very different receiving a DM saying that someone's been sad and then someone actually being in front of you, a physical person saying you did this for me. And at that point, when you realize that you're not just someone who's making videos online, you are someone that actually helps people in a lot of senses. I feel like I do kind of try to make sure I'm doing little things here or there to help. Not that I feel some kind of like role to do it. I just, I enjoy it. And yeah, I've always enjoyed meeting the people and interacting with the people that support me.
Is it overwhelming? Like, does that get difficult at some point? Because as you were talking about, being able to make these people happy, I thought of this little thought experiment that a very, very good but kind of irritating professor I had in college. Irritating because he just constantly like pushed everybody's buttons. He had this thought experiment where it was about something like, you are a doctor who can cure cancer. Let's say it takes you 6 to 8 hours to do the surgery required to cure these people. You cannot, whatever this gift is, you cannot teach anybody else how to do it. You're the only person on earth who can do this. How do you live your life? Literally, how do you live your life? Because if you take any time off, you know that you are effectively killing people by not saving them. Do you max out like 18 hours a day and barely sleep and you die when you die and you've saved a lot? Like, how do you do this? And for somebody like you, in a weird way, it's very similar. Those opportunities to make people's lives better can really mount up.
What I'd add is I would honestly not even label myself as necessarily a good person. I struggle a lot with morality and I struggle a lot with like my sense of self. So to kind of put myself as this benevolent creator that tries to make people happier would be incorrect. I find myself gravitate towards it quite a lot. But for example, in the case of the doctor, I don't think just because he has the ability to do that, that means he then should. I don't think he's killing people by not doing it. I think that the difference is active and passive. I think if I was that doctor, I'd maybe do surgery every couple of days, because everyone is human at the end of the day. And for someone to just say, oh yeah, no, I'd spend the rest of my life 18 hours using this gift that I have like some god, because that is what that would be at that point. You'd just be this benevolent force that only acted for others, and I don't think any human would naturally do that. So yeah, no, I wouldn't go as far to say that is just, something I can't resist or the person that I am, because I don't think that is the person that I am. I just think there is I kind of, I see the Schlatt perspective and I really understand it. I completely understand why people would just want to make that distance very clear. Go, hey, we're not friends.
Yeah.
I love that I entertain you. Please keep watching my stuff. If you don't want to watch it, that's absolutely fine. I feel the way of like, I've interacted with a lot of the people that watch my videos, a lot of the people that have supported me over Twitter. I've seen people move on. I've seen people become K-pop stans. I've seen people become, Dream SMP stans. I've seen people just grow up. I've seen people just completely.
Is that how you grow up?
Yeah, well, no. I mean, grow up as in like not stan anything, grow up. I was like, I've seen. I get this. There's this. The first
Those are
person,
different buckets. I understand.
Yeah,
now.
the first person that I think that ever had a picture of me as their profile picture on Twitter, which was just nuts to me at the time, was this girl called Molly, and I followed her. Molly still interacts with me every now and then. She'll message me on Instagram. I think she did the other day. She went, "Oh, I listened to the EP. It was really good." But she's not a fan of mine anymore. She's an adult. She's just like, I think she's 20 maybe. And she's just kind of doing her own thing. And that to me is absolutely fine. I don't care that this person doesn't support me as much as they used to because they've moved on and that's fine. And I feel like Schlatt in that perspective of, I love that you're enjoying the content that I'm making, but I'm not, if you leave me, I'm not going to be too upset about it. It's because I completely understand that people move on, people change, people have different tastes as they get older, or even just age in general. But at the same time, I could never say the opposite stance, which is the dream stance of like, I love you guys, I wouldn't be any of this without you.
Yeah.
That's just not true. I know that I am in this position because I kept trying and because things lined up for me in a very lucky way. I was quite fortunate. It wasn't every individual person that supported me. It was an algorithm that took my videos and put them in a lot of feeds, and then people that enjoyed that content. And it was quite scientific. So I don't think there's this inherent connection that is unbreakable between a creator and a person that enjoys videos. I think stan communities might like to be told that, to feel like they are necessarily a part of something. But I honestly, I would much rather someone who supported me for 5 years move on and message me every now and then like Molly does than someone just incessantly follow every move or incessantly say that they love me. I would find that more, I guess to each their own, but I completely understand Schlatt's perspective on that.
I do want to bring up the term that a lot of people are using in chat. The first to use it in chat today was Anaxis. And by the way, Anaxis helped us archive our Sonichu interview on the Kiwi Farms. So thank you, Anaxis, for marshaling that through. But he brought up the problem with parasocial relationships, and that's a lot of people are talking about this now. I know Tom Scott has a talk about it that has been referenced quite a few times. Yeah, Boromir in the Baby Gang has linked that video 1 or 2 times. This is what everybody's kind of trying to figure out, whether they're in your position and they're dealing with all of these different fan interactions on a lot of different levels over a long period of time, or if they're the fan. They're the ones who commits to watching every video, which that alone is a really big deal. And it amazes me when I talk to somebody who listens to most of the episodes of the Create Unknown, because I think, oh my God, here's the reality of what you have. It's not even like when I talk to my parents, I'll say something like, wow, there's a lot on the screen that they could click. No, that's bullshit. The reality here is that they have all of Pornhub to choose from. They have everything on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, whatever the hell it is, in addition to a gazillion YouTube videos, and for whatever reason, and podcasts, and for whatever reason, they take 2 hours a week, every other week.
And I know the reason.
And listen to us.
I know the reason, because
What's the reason?
when you're an actor, you're someone else. When you're an actor, you work for NASA or something. You're not the actor anymore. You're Stephen Hawking or whoever, right? When you're a porn star, you're not that person. You're a stepsister today, or maybe you're whatever you are, in that role, right? They don't come back for content. They come back for you. So I think it's like when no matter who you are as an influencer, it's always uncomfortable when someone tells you that. But it's people. I think the YouTube started off as something incredibly lonely. Like I remember I used to watch YouTube. I used to watch these nerdy British kids turn on cameras and upload videos on the internet because they didn't have much to do on their weekend. They weren't seeing many friends. And I was the person maybe that didn't have friends to see that weekend, and I would watch their videos. And that's how it started. It started off as something quite lonely. And social media has always been a way for people to get that rush of friendly dopamine that they'd get from seeing friends that they might not have at that point in time. And I think people get addicted to creators because suddenly they're having this constant dialogue. There's a feed of how many hours of content that the three of us have out at this point. They could have a conversation with us that may be a little bit one-sided, well, entirely one-sided in a lot of cases, in Schlatt's perspective, for example, that goes on for as long as they want it to. So that is the difference. So it's like, yeah, you can watch a good film or you can watch a good series and you could binge it, but you're always going to go back to a creator because a creator feels like a friend. It feels like you're revisiting, or you're kind of, you can be nostalgic about it even after it's only just started. So yeah, I think that's the difference.
I think that you're totally right. And one of the things I've thought about a lot is when I first started doing YouTube, I did a lot of character stuff. One of the characters was Jerry Bloop, and he was this guy who didn't know anything about video games and was trying to review video games, but he couldn't actually play them. So he would just make up what they were about. And Jerry Bloop was coming up at the same time as people like JonTron.
Right.
It was the same era. And you may not realize this, but JonTron is a lot more successful than Jerry Bloop. And part of that reason, or maybe, part of that reason is that Jerry Bloop was a character. It wasn't me. And JonTron really is John. It's John Jafari. It's this alternate sort of persona of JonTron, but it's really him. I mean, there's not much of a mask or persona that he's wearing. It's not wearing if he's wearing a costume, it's just because he's being silly, not because he's trying to be somebody else. And I've always thought that the one of the only people who got away with, who pulled off the character thing was Miranda Sings. She crushed it with that idiotic character, which was basically like female Jerry Bloop. I love that
character.
Well, she was so dedicated to it. I think at the point where it was, you could still be her friend, So it was you could still be Miranda Sings' friend. I think that's the way I always see it. Is are you watching them because they're your friend, and then if you're watching them because they're your friend, then that is that connection.
Yeah, but that's rare. I can almost think of nobody else. And then of course she has dumped that character to some degree and makes videos as herself, as Colleen, but I can't think of anybody else, certainly not to her level, that was able to pull off a tremendously successful character on YouTube.
Well, it's like watching Boogie 2988 try and maintain the character of Francis, which is just, stop. No one needs that.
Yeah, I just realized something as we were talking about this attachment developing on fans, and not to belabor this, but I'm still going to belabor it. I developed, this is such a boomer, terrible thing to say, but I developed, I don't know if I'd call it a parasocial relationship, but a similar feeling from reading certain magazines, because you put so much time into them, issue after issue, if you read them. And I thought of this one magazine called The New Criterion. And anybody who's in Discord knows that my name displays as playing Google Docs instead of any actual game. And if anybody looks at The New Criterion, they'll see that the content here is just as boring as playing Google Docs all day. But it's a dense publication. It's monthly. To read the whole thing took several hours each time. Well, 12 issues a year, let's say 4 or 5 hours. Well, you're looking at 60 hours a week. I've read this for nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
60 hours a year. So that's 1,200 hours.
Wow.
That I've devoted to this publication. And you start to feel like you kind of know the writers who are contributing every month or every other month. There's a guy, Theodore Dalrymple, who I like quite a lot. And, you kind of get to know them. And all you're doing is reading them. I've never talked to Theodore Dalrymple. I've never even gotten a retweet from the guy. And I doubt I'll ever cross paths with him. But you still feel this attachment that you're sharing some of the same ideas and the same interests, and you're both committed to the exploration of some topic. And it's a very complex thing. I would feel, weird and bad and probably some form of betrayal if some of these people, kind of rejected all of us who have committed so much time into them. So I don't know if it's the same thing as watching YouTube videos,
it's close.
But I think it feels that way to me.
Yeah, I think because it's like you're relying on a feed from a person. I think that's like very specifically a singular person, or even may it be a group of people. I think personally, I've always struggled to maintain those kind of parasocial relationships with existent things. So whenever I feel emotions for media, I feel the majority of my emotions for fictional media. So if I'm watching an anime, I'll feel far more emotion for an anime, be it something, like Attack on Titan or maybe a film, than a lot of the times I do in actual social relationships, in real life things. I guess I just find it easier to comprehend in that sense. But I think for me, it's kind of like the idea of there's no one on the other side that could ever let me down at that point, unless it's Hunter x Hunter, which will never finish, and that anime not finishing is actually very upsetting now I think about it. But yeah, stuff like that.
Well, Matt, do you have anything else, or you want to start getting into some questions from our audience?
I think it's question time.
Okay, can I start? And totally jump in line ahead of the audience and ahead of our patrons? What is your favorite anime? I didn't know you were an anime guy.
Oh, I'm huge on anime. Right now I'm enjoying the last season of Attack on Titan. I'm a big Attack on Titan fan. That's like a very important one to me. Hunter x Hunter has got a special place in my heart. I'm kind of into all of the recent stuff. Like I really like Demon Slayer. I can't wait to see the film when it's out in the Western world. I'm enjoying Jujutsu Kaisen. Love is War is fantastic, and Mob Psycho as well. Yeah, sorry, I like quite a few. I don't have one that really stands out above the rest. I think Demon Slayer, when it gets going a bit more though, could be that one, hopefully.
All right. Well, I don't think I've watched. I watch old anime because I'm 97 years old.
My girlfriend's favorite's Evangelion, and I've seen that, and that was fantastic. That's like a classic.
Yes, I love that. I've watched that several times.
Very good.
So, what would you recommend old man Lieber here watch? Demon Slayer?
Yes.
In terms of like the new stuff?
That is probably the newest feeling anime, and it's beautiful. The art is absolutely fantastic, and there is just this one episode. If anyone in the call has seen it, will just know that there is just one episode which is probably, I would argue, the best episode of anime I've ever seen. Because it's just absolutely magnificent, both visually and story wise. It completely turns. I don't know. I don't want to say anything else about it really, but I feel very strongly about that anime.
Okay, and real quick, how many episodes of that are there?
24 right now. I think it's in the 20s. It's like 24 or 26.
Okay.
There's only one season, and there is a film out, but it's I think it was the 4th highest grossing film out last year, and it was only released in Japan, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Seriously, like a huge film. And that might be completely wrong. Feel free to fact check me, but I'm fairly sure it was huge.
Okay.
So there you go.
That's totally digestible, because I get really, really freaked out when some of these animes have like 280 episodes, like 800 episodes. I'm like, there's no way. I cannot commit the next
Hunter's
4 years of my life to watch One Piece.
Exactly. Hunter is about 140 episodes, and there is, I kid you not, one episode of Hunter x Hunter lasts 8 seconds canonically. So a whole 20-minute episode lasts 8 seconds, and they take you through this 8-second period of I won't say what they're doing, but it's just, you get to the end of it, and the narrator goes, 8 seconds has passed, and it's just like, what the fuck have I just been watching? I'm like up at 3 a.m. I've just binged 6 episodes of this shit. Like, come on, man! No, the arc takes forever to end. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
I want to point out that
remember that.
There's 655 episodes of Hee Haw.
Oh god!
And if you haven't watched those, Kevin, it's time to get on it.
Make sure don't get on My Hero Academia either, because that is one that sucks the life away of you, and you're about 70 episodes deep when you realize it's not a very good anime. And I'm so sorry, Isaac. I just seen Isaac get angry in chat, but no, I'm afraid My Hero Academia is just very repetitive, and you only realize about 70 episodes in that you've just kind of had your life sucked away by this beast.
It's like, is it like Law and Order, where every episode is technically different but kind of the same?
Exactly, yeah. And you kind of have this slow progress of these superheroes. And the thing about superhero films and superhero content is you want to see the heroes get better, and you want to see the heroes just have these magnificent powers, and that's what keeps you watching it. And you get so deep into the content, and you realize, what has actually happened over the last 70 episodes? It's like, oh, he can punch a bit harder now. That's kind of cool. But what actually has happened? So yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, now that I derailed everything.
And now that Isaac has been called out and shamed properly.
Yeah, sorry, Isaac.
It is question time. We actually have fewer idiotic ones than normal. I love the idiotic questions, but these are very good nonetheless. This is from Tom Videogre, who, as always, has been extremely quick on the draw, freakishly quick with links in the episode chat. Thank you for that, Tom. He asks, with the EBoys anniversary happening in April, looking back on the first year of it, what are your thoughts on the EBoys and the future of it?
Well, we've hired someone now, that we've actually got our first employee, and there's someone who's kind of organizing us a bit better. Yeah, it's great. It's been weird because we started the channel in lockdown, and it was so easy when it was the first lockdown, because it's like, we can't do anything other than this stuff. That it was like the whole channel was formed off of these funny reaction videos, and I love them. I love making the EBoys videos, and I look back at them and they're really funny. I love them. But as soon as lockdown eased and we started doing videos that were kind of in real life, and we were starting to explore, higher quality content, not higher content, I guess, but higher quality content, then all of a sudden when lockdown hit again and we should have been in our element, it just kind of lost steam. We didn't want to revert at that point. And now we're kind of in the perspective of, we were just kind of being stupid and we needed a bit of a break. Obviously we have our podcast still, which we all love doing. But yeah, we're kind of looking at it we're kind of turning a new leaf on it. We are going to be uploading again on the main channel. I don't think we're going to do anything special for any kind of anniversary, but yeah, we're all really looking forward to it. A lot of people that support us think we're kind of done with it, but that's just simply not the case. We are investing in it, and we're looking forward to the future of it.
Excellent. Well, it's it popped out of nowhere during that lockdown period and has taken on a very cool life. It's been awesome to see that go. And I hadn't even realized that it had been a year. It's one of those things that seems like it's kind of always been there at this point.
Well, I mean, the EBoys as a group have been around for so long, to the point where even when Will was in XO, there was still our group that was just a bit different. And again, the way the EBoys formed was, I just wanted to do a video that week. I was going for a bit where I was just so bored and I wanted to upload as much as possible. And I just reached out to George and I went, "Hey George, do you want to hop on a video this week?" And then I'd just been playing FIFA with Alex, and I was like, "Oh, why don't I'll just get both of them." And then I invited Will, and famously, I also invited Inaba, and that obviously went a certain way.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah, no beef to be had here, please. But regardless, and then the video went so well that it just became obvious. Why haven't we been doing this all along? There had been so many times where we tried to make this channel and tried to make it something that it wasn't, to the point where realizing that we just sat down and recorded a reaction to Nikocado Avocado's arsehole, to put it lightly, and we made it into content, and it got 1 million views. And then Will came to me and said, let's do this, because I was originally going to bring the others a plan where I'd say, hey, I'm going to manage this channel. You guys just feature on it, and I'll give you a cut. And then it just kind of happened around that anyway. It just so happened that everyone else also wanted to do the channel. And then it just happened. And it was fantastic. Yeah.
I love it because it's like a YouTube super group, you know. I've always loved the concept of that from, like the $1 Million Quartet. What an idea that was. The Highwaymen in the 80s. What a great collection of country music stars. Damn Yankees was a great super group.
You know what it is though? It's always fun because like I will never view myself as being like anything special or even famous. Like I really hate that concept for some reason, but it's always good making something new and it doing well. Something, the fact that we translated subscribers over to this new channel that I might be wrong when I say we had 100K before uploading, but everyone rushed to it. And that was, that's always fantastic to feel because it's, you kind of reminded that there are people actively supporting you and they don't even know what it is yet. And that's just great.
That's cool. And I do hope that the next one that you're involved with is called The Traveling Salisburys.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
sure. I used to live in a place called Salisbury.
That name is too good to waste.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Let's see. Oh, this is good. This is from Dr. Uwu. And his question is, when will you get a tattoo of I'm Alex on your lower thigh?
Oh, yeah. Probably never, even, not never. Sorry, a bit of Minecraft came out of me there.
Well, you will have a gun to your head at some point, and you have to do this, okay? So what's the tattoo going to be? Like, what is Alex's pose? What image of Alex's, unless you just want the trigger pulled, but I doubt it.
Yeah, take the tattoo twice, please.
So, and Dr. Uwu confirms in the chat, I will find you. This is a threat.
Oh, okay, good.
So, yeah, this has become very real, very scary.
Jesus.
What's the Alex tattoo going to look like?
Oh, I don't know. I think probably one of his OnlyFans pictures that he did of him, the one where he's holding George's mask up against his cock. I think that one would be the one that I would get tattooed on me. The full body. I would just tattoo his body onto my body. And it'd be really contorted because we're such different sizes. So yeah, let's do that.
Oh, thank you for the highlight that you just gave us.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, try monetizing that one.
It's going to play well on Twitter.
Yeah, for sure.
This one is a bit more serious, but it fits some of the things we talked about earlier. It's from The Grinning Reaper. Have you ever disliked yourself as a YouTuber? And really, how did you build the self-confidence to keep going? I want to tack one little tiny specific on top of it. Is there a video that you made that you dislike, like you regret having made that video?
Quite a few. I used to believe as well that if I looked back on a video from a year ago and actually enjoyed it, then I haven't changed. And that's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. So as soon as I look back on the videos I made a year ago and I'm going, hey, that was good. I'm like, okay, I need to do something different now. That's just kind of the way I am. So yeah, there's a lot of old videos I don't like. Also the way I used to be as a person, when I was like 19 and I was just an asshole a lot of the times. I wouldn't go back and do that again. But I guess there's always going to be things that I did in the past that I'm not a fan of. I don't like Slow Down anymore. Like the song I made, I don't like it. So it's like, oh, wow. If I'm not, if I'm constantly looking back at the things I did and kind of, I don't know, just almost enjoying it a bit too much, I feel like that's a problem. I feel like I should perhaps redirect my attention to what I'm doing now or what I want to do in the future, then kind of bathe in a pool of what I've created. So yeah. Let's go. Oh, this is good. Spicy sausage or mild sausage? Oh, I'm gonna go for spicy. I like spicy foods.
How spicy?
Oh, I feel like sausage is one of those things you could get quite a spicy one, and it would be okay. I feel, yeah, I'd go for a 6 out of 10 spice
here's my question that will really quantify this properly. When you go to the greatest restaurant humanity has ever created, which is Nando's, which level of spice, which level of heat do you get on Nando's?
I used to be an extra hot guy. Actually, admittedly, I'm a medium now, and then I add wild herb because I believe wild herb is either hot or medium, and at that point, you kind of be playing with dangerous territory if you're playing in dangerous territory if you're going hot and sauce, because it does build up fairly quickly. But there's a sauce that's off the menu called peritama. And that is fantastic. It's not that spicy, but it's very flavorful, and I very much recommend it.
What is Nando's?
About that.
Oh, it's a chicken place.
You have so much to learn, Kevin.
Yeah, if when you're in the UK, you need to go. It's like our go-to chicken. Kind of like the closest thing to it would be Chick-fil-A, but it's more like a sit-down restaurant.
But Kevin, it's a lot like Brooks in terms of the chicken that you get. It's like barbecued, roasted. It's not so much coated and fried. Like you can get a whole chicken, roasted chicken.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But it's based on Portuguese peri-peri.
Yeah, it's half Portuguese, half South African, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I would love that.
It's amazing. The fact that it's a chain that exists in this world and is replicated over and over is just
everywhere
remarkable.
in London. Everywhere. Yeah. You could go to any part of London and there is a Nando's there. And it's good as well. It's quite cheap. And then
it is fairly inexpensive.
Yeah, and they have a really good points system as well. So you collect chilies, and then when you get a certain amount of chilies, you get a free meal. And it's not that many chilies. So there you go.
I like it. All right. This is good. This is from Baseweight, who is a very talented musician and producer himself. He wants to know, what's your process of approaching writing a new song?
It predominantly starts with me picking up a physical instrument. I'm not the best producer in the world when it comes to synthetic things. So when I have synths. I have an OP1, which is fantastic. It's a really cool little synth. But I like chord progressions, like interesting chord progressions or bass lines. That's where I start, because a lot of the leads that I write are fairly repetitive in nature, and if I try and base a song around them, it's quite hard to find a chord progression that is good. But yeah, I usually start with a chord progression. Sometimes it will be, I think I wrote the chord progression for the first verse, and then I sang what the first verse is. Like I had the why'd it have to be him line down from the beginning. And interestingly enough, one of the people that it was about used to say this thing of like, oh, I love songs that start and end with the same thing. So I thought it'd be quite cool to almost do that. So I already knew from the get-go that song was going to do that. But yeah, sometimes it takes me a little bit longer. I think there was another song on the EP Calling, which just had so many different forms, but it was based around a chord progression that Wilbur Soot had written, and I thought it was really good, and I stole it. And then I told him that I stole it, and he didn't recognize it. Twice. I told him again when I had finished the song and sent it to him, and reminded him that he wrote the chord progression for the verse, and he'd forgotten again. But yeah, I have lots of little different ways of starting, but the best things I write usually start with a bass line or a chord progression, and then I kind of just develop it from there with whatever makes sense in my head.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm sure that, that process varies tremendously from person to person, and so it's nice to hear that one perspective on it.
I think it's everyone is different when it comes to it, but I think to create good things or to constantly be reinventing your art and improving, you need to be doing it differently. So when I send all of my stuff to my producer, and he tells me if it's garbage. Like he will just be completely honest with me and go, "This is shit. Move on. Do something better." Or say like, yeah. you're writing too many things with this in mind. Like he told me that one day I sent him 3 different demos that I just came up with, like little moments of. They weren't like very high produced. They were just kind of like chord progressions and stuff. And he just replied in all capitals, "Stop trying to write Get Lucky, please." Because I just happened to have been listening to Get Lucky the day before, and I just had this kind of like funky, jangly guitar rhythm in me for some reason. And yeah, he likes to put me on the ground and say, "Hey, bring me back to the ground and go say, hey, just try something different." And yeah, that's always good to have. But yeah, that'd be my recommendation to anyone. If you have an instrument that you like and you always turn to when you're writing music. Put that instrument down and pick up something else for once. So.
Oh, that's interesting. And Kevin, you've written your share of songs in the past. Does this match up with how you felt about the process?
I can't play anything other than guitar, so I couldn't pick anything else.
Well, neither. That's the thing. It's like, but then, a bass is just a guitar with 4 strings, and if there's any bassists in here, they're gonna hate me for saying that. But you can play bass, and you can always find your way around a keyboard. The thing is, the best thing about music these days is you don't actually have to be good at music to be successful at music. You can. I'm not the best guitarist in the world. A lot of the things I write, I struggle to play all the way through at once, which if I was a musician back in the 60s, I would be awful. But now I can go on a software and kind of cut it together properly, and I could do that with any instrument I picked up as long as I could pluck a note, So I think, the world, there's so much opportunity in music these days.
Yeah.
I love it.
Or if you were a musician back in 2006.
Yeah.
I had to play all this stuff.
Yeah, I would have really struggled.
So Tom Videogre has another music related question. No Left Brain dropped at the start of the year with him, which is his personal favorite track.
Oh.
And Tom pointed out that it broke 1 million listens on Spotify.
Yeah.
What was that like, blasting through that barrier? How do you feel about this?
We did it in the first month, which is just insane.
It's crazy.
We had a goal for it because it's always good to set goals, and I think that goal was just to build off of Slow Down. With I didn't care if it was all 3 songs collectively doing better than Slow Down or just one or whatever. It did really well. I think it was quite. It must have, I think TikTok did it because it just, people started making a lot of TikToks with it. And then I think it just started getting a lot of streams that way. But no, we never expected that to happen. And I couldn't be happier. It's the highest, it has the most interaction out of any piece of content that I've created this year so far. And for that to have been a serious piece of music that took me months and not a commentary video that took me 2 days is honestly the best feeling in the world. I had euphoria when I uploaded the initial music video, more than anything, and then I think the kind of the hitting 1 million is always like, oh cool, I did that, but it's not the initial buzz,
And what's next? I mean, what's the next kind of goal with that?
We have a song, pretty much. I think we're about 3 weeks from having it finished, and that's going to be out probably in April or late March. It's called Wake Up. And it's quite interesting now because obviously when you can't, I mean, the thing about him is it hit the viral charts in the UK on Spotify, which is huge.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And whenever that happens, all of a sudden labels start messaging you. And I'd been in talks with a few different labels, some of the big ones as well, like the ones that would claim videos, let's just say, that kind of range of labels, which is interesting. But having conversations with them and them asking to hear the next song before it comes out and offer artistic direction and stuff just to try and get their foot in the door is really quite something. Yeah. It's really exciting.
Huh. So that's got to be a completely different process. Tom, who is so quick with those links, has just pointed out in the chat that him was used in 2,618 TikToks.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. And
that's a lot.
I'd add that about 2,300 of those within the first week of it being out. So it went
That's
off.
insane.
And then, as all things tend to do, it has its moment and then falls off. But yeah, it had a great moment.
Huh. Well, we've got 2 more. Second to last here is from Marco. It's kind of a retrospective here. What would you tell young or beginning content creators so they can do what they do and enjoy the process and not burn out or flame out or resent their art?
That's really interesting because that is the sign of someone who I think that is the right kind of question to be asking, because you kind of get a lot of people who go, oh, how do I do it? But never, how do I cope with it? Which I think is like the people who ask, how do I do it will in most cases never actually do it. But the ones who are saying, how will I cope, are probably a different kettle of fish. I think the thing is about YouTube is you need to know going into it that it is very difficult to handle. if you are on your own, because it's only ever going to be you that has to wake yourself up and make another video. If you do make it, no one else is going to tell you to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, people online will, but you'll come to realize that that's kind of just a drop in the ocean, if it were. I think just staying true to yourself. And the one thing that I had a really interesting conversation with someone today where they said, I wanted to do a certain thing on YouTube, but I realized that I had to first do something else to bring an audience for the other thing I wanted to do. But now I've done the other thing so much that if I was to do the thing I wanted to do originally, no one would want to watch it anymore. And it's important that you kind of recognize that you need to find a way to attract an audience, create entertaining content, but make sure it's something you are going to want to do for quite a while. Because there are a lot of cases of people who end up kind of putting themselves into lanes of things that they don't necessarily enjoy, but they get a lot of views. And then you're kind of left with this really distorted sense of self. And I think that worsens the imposter syndrome because it's like, I don't even enjoy this. What am I doing? So always make sure you're trying to direct yourself in the area that you want to be in, because I think you can get pigeonholed quite easily online.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I want to throw a little quick thing in here about, you talk about how you kind of have to show up to work here, even when you don't want to. And there's nobody telling you to do it, nobody making a schedule for you. And it's really hard to develop the discipline to do that. But even before the discipline, you have to be somebody who can get into habits.
Yeah.
And most people don't really develop habits with anything. And that's something that somebody at the very beginning, I would encourage them to develop really simple, meaningless habits in their life. So for example, I have a nightstand next to my bed. In the bottom drawer of this nightstand holds about 24 Monsters. So I will fill that with a case of Monsters. And that way,
That's
every
a big
single
drawer.
It's a hell of a big drawer. It's amazing.
I love that for you.
Yeah. So yeah, it holds a whole case, but that means, I can fill it up for nearly a month. But every single day I wake up, I check my phone, I grab a Monster, I crack it open, and I drink that Monster in bed, do whatever, and then get up, get dressed, and get on with my day. But just having that little tiny repeatable habit has made a tremendous difference in my productivity, because then I just added some other things after that. And all of a sudden I had this really productive regimen that I didn't mind doing and didn't even feel like work. All of a sudden I was just getting straight into work every single morning, very early, and enjoying it, because before it was just so hard to get started. Well, now I start by waking up and cracking a Monster. I mean, it can be anything. It can be, wake up and eat beans on toast, for all I care. But if you do it every single day, it's just going to kind of activate that little job of yours. I
finally started, creating kind of little habits for myself as well now for the first time, I think, ever.
Like what?
I have an iced coffee every morning. I have an iced latte, and I kind of sit down and play some chess, and then kind of start organizing my day. I go and I make a tea for my girlfriend, who always wakes up a bit later than I do, and that's when my day starts, after I make a tea for someone else. And I love it.
Yeah,
it really helps.
I really do think it can be just about anything, as long as you just kind of get in a groove like that, and it just kind of eases you in to being useful that day.
For sure. I agree.
And if, by the way, if the night before, whatever you're done working the day before, if you end on something that is incomplete but very easy, then you have something to start the next day. So if you're writing something, it's tempting to hit a stopping point. You actually don't want to do that. You want to get to a point where it's the easiest thing in the world to finish that paragraph the first thing the next day, and then all of a sudden you're writing. You just move on to the real work. Yeah. But it gets through a lot of that writer's block stuff and kind of artistic block. But,
I have an issue with that, though, at least on a personal level, because I have a very active brain when it comes to that kind of stuff. So if sometimes I'll kind of leave a moment and I'll be very frustrated with the fact that I haven't quite finished something yet, and I'll find myself struggling to sleep because my brain can't go off it. It's also the same if I do something badly on a day. Like, for example, and it could be absolutely anything. I know a lot of people go like, oh, a bad exam, I can't sleep after a bad exam or whatever, kind of like the post-mortems. But I get this about chess now. So when I go to bed, I know I've mentioned chess perhaps, as many times as I've mentioned it, too many times. But I go to bed thinking about chess and thinking about moves that I've made in chess or about what I would do in this position on a chessboard. And it's just ridiculous. And I quite need to have like finishing tasks before bed. Like I have my little skin routine, and that just, it very much simplifies my evening.
Yeah, there are just a lot of ways to do that. So play around, find what works for you, but do it early. Do it early in the process. And that's why I wanted to kind of spend a few minutes on this, because Marco asked specifically, younger creators, people just beginning, if you can just get into some habits and things that work for you early on, it's going to pay off literally for the rest of your life.
For sure.
Last question here from the episode chat is from a YouTuber named Many Kudos.
Hey.
He's got a question that sounds frivolous, but is shockingly valid. Why are there so many YouTubers named James? Both he and I can name like 12 people we talk to with some regularity, all of whom are named James. Why is this happening?
He'll know. We have a secret group chat. We have a secret organization, of course. He'd
James
know.
Too.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, this is the thing. Yeah, the James. I was referred to as James 2 for the longest time because of the Right Opinions group chats and him wanting to be the first James.
Oh, right.
There are a lot of us. I was annoyed though because what's the guy the animator? What's the like one of the biggest animation channels, and he's called James. I can't remember his name. I want to say One something. Am I right? No, that's only NG.
Odd One Is Out.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So he did he tweeted an image that he'd drawn of all of the Jameses on YouTube, and there was like James Charles, James Ski. There was James Lee, that animator that blew up on Twitter for his like Premiere Pro animations, which are just fantastic. And I wasn't there. And then I got verified that same day, and I replied again going, "Hey man, just got verified. Was wondering if I could get added into this now. I'm part of the group. I'm one of the verified few." And he didn't reply, even though I know
I too am named James. Yeah. I too am James. I am also James.
And Twitter have recognized that my name is James. I've sent them a picture of my ID. I have been verified as a member of James.
Wait, are there any Jims or Jimmies? Is everybody James?
Oh. Yeah, well, there's Mr. Beast, who's a James but doesn't go by James.
Yeah,
he's a Jimmy.
We don't have good experiences with Jimmies here in the UK, unfortunately. I think that.
Okay.
Oh, that's okay. James will fix it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Unfortunately, we never could.
God, 7 people got that joke.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, it's like an I Am Spartacus moment where everybody on YouTube is James, and it's just hard to tell who's who. Yeah. So actually, that's if you do want a YouTube career, we do like to help people get started. Just be named James, and your chances of being a successful YouTuber shockingly high.
You're halfway there.
Yeah, a part of me wishes that I'd never used my real name. Because there's always that privacy issue. But now I'm kind of glad. Maybe the only reason I ever got big in the first place was because I had James in my name. That's the real truth of it. There you go.
Well, James, before we let you out, we have to ask you the most important question that we'd like to end our episodes on. And it's very serious. It's another international politics question, like we started. So, like that song that you wanted to start or end the way you started. Oh, yeah. We're going to end this podcast the way we started, with a very serious question, and that is, what is your fursona?
Oh, you know what? For the longest time, when I started commentary, I saw the amount of people that had fursonas, and I was like, I'm liking this. I've got to get myself a fursona. I've got to be an animal. This is how I blow up as a commentary channel. I've got to be an animal. Because obviously that was when Leafy was a lizard, Pyro was a fox.
Yeah.
Obviously he's perhaps at the time a bigger fox than we realized. But
zing.
Yeah, no. But regardless, I always thought about this, but I could never decide. I feel like I would actually be a scaly. I'd go for a turtle. I think I'd be a sea turtle. I always liked loggerhead turtles as a kid, so I think a turtle.
I like
Michael
that.
Reeves is going to jam a straw in your nose.
Honestly, I would pay him to. I would love that.
Collab.
Oh my gosh. Well, listen, James, it's been lovely in the words of British people. It's been lovely. I don't know if that came off as creepy
Yeah, no, I think
or sinister.
that word doesn't exist anywhere else. You're right.
But it has been lovely. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Everyone, go check out James Marriott's music, No Left Brain. You can stream right now. No Left Brain. Check it out on Spotify. New track on the way. What was it? Wake Up?
Yeah, that's the one. And my music manager told me that he was that he woke up one day with the song in his head, and he laughed when he realized that he had a song called Wake Up, and when he woke up stuck in his head, which I like. Hopefully a lot of people get that when it comes out.
Perfect. Well, keep an eye out for Wake Up. And in the meantime, you can just check out his YouTube channel. If you want to hang out with us next week, the week after that, like 7 months from now, you should do that. Every Wednesday night is TCU night. We are always here on Discord, live, hanging out with you. We have a great episode chat with our patrons. If you want to become a patron, just go to patreon.com/thecreateunknown. Become a $2 tot. Buy a year's worth of $2 tot for $20, and you'll make yourself a much better person in the process. It's just a fact.
Change your life.
Just a fact. Yeah. But who do we got? We got great guests coming up. We've got Pello coming up. We got Nathan Barnett coming up. We have people I can't talk about coming up, but they are coming up.
We have Sailing Doodles, which is somebody a lot of people won't have heard of, but who is shockingly popular on YouTube. Sailing Doodles basically sails around with dogs and has this baller life that the guy is my age and just has the kind of life you see on TV and you're like, oh, that's not real. Well, it is real. And he's going to jump in and talk to us about what that's like. So yeah, we have a varied lineup of people here. We're booked out for a while. It's going to be great.
Yep. Big stuff coming ahead, folks. So join us every Wednesday night. We are here. Until then, we'll see you, Space Cowboys.
Thanks for listening to The Create Unknown. We'd like to extend a huge thank you and congratulations to the Tots and Dumpster crew who save tiny little lives every month. A tremendous shout out to our elite baby gang: Trevstad, Boromir, Bot Dogs, Chinchilla, Isaac, Conrad, James, Jeff Davis, Patrick Pister, Baseweight, and Dojangles. And thank you to our grizzled, battle-hardened child infantry: Jen Meffisanti, Kevin Menard, Mikhail Steinke, Risebread, Sean Malone, Triple Question Mark, Monahan, Ryan Kinder, Sheep, and Maruko. Thank you as well to our producer and editor Ben Webster and to our media manager Dan Yosua. The Create Unknown is an Unknown Media production.